A student once said to Albert Einstein, "Dr. Einstein, aren't these the same questions as last year's final exam?" To which Einstein replied, "Yes, but this year the answers are different." In the academic world, research is always finding different answers and the state of knowledge is constantly moving forwards. But that progress is built on the connection of ideas that go back years and sometimes decades in time. Hello, I'm Martin Dean, and I shall be your host in this new series of programmes where senior figures from academia and the experts of Web of Science join us to take a look at some of the key challenges in research today. From locking in that next grant, to finding more of the right collaborators, to getting published in the right journals, and to measuring research impact. But in this programme, we're going to start with the critical problem that research teams face in making sure they uncover all the research in a given field. And we'll take a look at how techniques such as citation searching can help. Michael Barrett is Professor of Information Systems and Innovation Studies at Judge Business School at Cambridge University. He's also a Fellow of Hughes Hall in Cambridge. I caught up with him recently in Cambridge and started by asking him about his work.
My focus is on digital innovation. I've been studying this area for about 25 years. I've started out looking really very much at the role of electronic trading in financial markets. And that got me really excited because if you look at, say, Lloyd's of London, which 300 years ago was full of coffee houses and which has a strong culture of face-to-face negotiations and collaborations and forming a market and being innovative about pricing a market, it was very fascinating to look at how electronic trading was being introduced and the changes in that market or not within this traditional financial insurance market.
Thinking about some specific, maybe recent research that you've been involved in, what do you rely on to make sure that you have uncovered all the relevant research in a particular field of interest?
Yes, it's something which we really think carefully about and research, starting with lots of searches. It's important for us to get a lay of the land, a landscape of the work. Let me give you an example. We're looking currently at smart manufacturing. Manufacturing has been around for quite some time, as you'll know, and there's also related topics such as advanced manufacturing, as opposed to what is now being termed smart manufacturing. So how do we go about trying to investigate what's seen as a relatively new phenomenon over the last couple of years in a way that takes account of relevant and related, but what we might be trying to claim as a research space as distinctive for smart manufacturing? And this therefore requires that we look across different disciplines in particular. We're going to be covering innovation and manufacturing and technology, then there are different journals by whether it's operations management, information systems, that organizational theory journals that we're going to be looking at and trying to create a good understanding of what has gone before that often is not necessarily with the same language that is more popular today.
And when you look at that type of research, you talk about smart manufacturing, do you find things that surprise you and things that you hope perhaps change your thinking slightly?
Yes, what we often find is that people may not be going back far enough to really see what is related, even if it's under another label, such as advanced manufacturing, that is still very relevant today for smart manufacturing. And the challenge is to help to unpack and unravel and define, as part of shaping and growing a new stream of work in the literature and around what's been coined by practice as well, a new term. So you do find surprises that sometimes people in their work have been, if you like, too shallow or not wide enough in connecting relevant streams of work, which therefore leads to it being difficult to make clear that contribution and therefore to have it published.
Michael talked about the difficulties that research teams face trying to search the literature across different disciplines using simple keywords, particularly when terminology is changing rapidly. Well, I asked Don Seckler at Clarivate Analytics' Web of Science to explain a little more about the potential pitfalls of keyword searching.
If you're applying keywords, typically what happens is a journal article might be published, and then someone would need to read that article and understand that article and apply keywords, usually a structured keyword language, like a thesaurus of structured keywords around that article. So, if there's millions of articles being published every year, that's a lot of work to kind of have people reading and capturing and applying those keywords to articles. Also, no one agrees on the keywords for an article. There is some common keyword schemas that people largely accept, but everyone has their own preferred way of describing what an article might be about. So the acceptance of keywords is not always uniform, specifically across disciplines. And also keywords move very slowly. Like if you create a very structured language of keywords, you're not likely to modify that on the fly to capture new fields. So that's another kind of weakness, is that they tend to lag behind expansions in fields or new development in fields where there are actually new language being used in the field. The keywords tend to lag behind that new language.
But if keyword searching can't be relied upon to find all the connected research in a given field, then what's the alternative? Mariana Boletta manages the editorial selection team at Web of Science. She told me how the cited references made from one paper to another can be analysed and stored to create what is in effect a searchable web of citations.
Eugene Garfield is the founder of this principle. And when Dr. Garfield introduced the concept of citation indexing for the sciences in 1955, he emphasized several advantages of citation indexing over traditional subject indexing. And he realized through research, of course, that citation indexing not only creates a network of citations of authors linking author names, but also concepts, research centers, and so on. And basically creating a network of a richness of information that cannot be equaled by subject indexing.
And once you have an index or web of citations, you can use this to trace related scientific work backwards and forwards in time using a technique called cited reference searching or citation searching. Here's Don Seckler again.
Citation searching is really about kind of tracing an article's influence over time. So an article publishes, and that is not the end of the conversation. Publishes in a journal, researchers read that journal, and if that article has moved the field forward, typically it contributes to future articles. And when those future articles are published, it is a natural part of scholarly communication to cite that earlier research. So, a citation index captures all of those connections. So it's really capturing the naturally occurring connections in scholarly communication. And that's what the citations are. Citation searching is a way of exploring those citations directly.
We'll continue to explore the power of citation indexing in future programs, and as we heard from Don Seckler, citation searching will make sure you don't miss relevant work in a given field. Let's go back to Michael Barrett now to find out what this means in practice. I asked him if a researcher were to miss something while looking for previous research, whether that could, for example, impact getting funding.
Well, it certainly could if it's when you submit your proposals for funding, they're all peer-reviewed. So peer-reviewed usually means, and it's a good process, we haven't found anything better yet, that it's sent out to people who are experts in the area that will point out your mistakes or your poor referencing or your lack of appreciating lots of research streams that would be relevant, that should have been covered. And so that means that your proposal will be turned down because it's simply not seen to be by the funders as something which is going to give value for money. It's going to maybe be rehashing work that's already been done because you haven't covered it already. So it's hugely important.
Now, if you want to find out more about citation searching and how it can help you uncover the hidden connections in research, click on the link at the end of this show. That's all for this programme, and my thanks to Professor Michael Barrett, Mariana Boletta and Don Seckler for their insights. More from Professor Barrett in our next show, and also Professor Nishan Kanagaraja from Bristol University, when we turn to the topic of research impact and explore how Dr. Eugene Garfield's pioneering work on citation indexing has become the foundation for research performance assessment across the globe. Thank you very much for watching.